complex relationships with God, his parents, his siblings, his wife, and children, and with Nathaniel Hawthorne. In addition to performing, Stephen Collins teaches seminars on Walt Whitman, Thomas Hardy, William Shakespeare, Robert Frost, and contemporary poetry and acts as a tour guide of historic Boston locations. We want to thank the town of Barnstable for providing Tales of Cape Cod with a tourism grant, which made this presentation possible. We would also like to thank the ladies in the kitchen, Helen Fair, Jude Blaine, and Mary Jo Rubin for providing the lovely reception which follows this program. Please, let's give Stephen Collins a warm Cape Cod Tales and Herman Melville welcome, please.
And I have loved the ocean, loved thee, loved thee. My heart has stopped. I was dreaming of an ocean at war with itself. The battle was brief. The waves fell into darkness. I just turned 72. So this is death, the undiscovered country. My eyes are clear again. My back, I'm no longer in pain. Lizzie strokes my head while Bessie weeps. Lizzie whispers, he's at peace at last. Her hair, once brown, that I turned to gray. In the valley of the Typees, naked widows jump up and down to show their grief. Lizzie dons her Boston black. Had I died at sea, they would sew me up, weigh me down, and splash into the blue. Instead, I'm being planted at Woodlawn, next to my sons. Malcolm, who shot himself. Stanwix from tuberculosis. My stone bears vine, quill, and scroll, for I was a writer once, a man who lived with cannibals. Quiet service, witnessed by few, Tom's widow, Alan's daughter, Kate, a widow herself. Fanny did not attend, nor do I blame her. Mackie knew me when I was golden. Fanny knew only my eclipse and my darkness. There are two things parents should give their children, said Goethe: roots and wings. I gave mine neither, yet Bessie seemed to like me. Lizzie and her neuralgia, Bessie and her rheumatism, they're like sisters now, monkey rope for life. Down I go into the earth. The worms, not the sharks, shall have me. Lizzie takes down. She dismantles my library. So many books, and I swam through them all. 2 years before the Mask, which put me aboard the Acushnet. The Divine William, I fed his Lear to my whale. Rabelais, who told the truth and shamed the devil. Brown, who wondered if Christ ever laughed. Kant, who cried, dare to think, Goethe remembered to live. The Mosses, Aunt Mary's star-crossed gift. They were once my lifeblood. All of them now tombs for words. Of the making of many books, there's no end. Lizzie sits at my desk, sorting through papers. Some are placed in a tin, others dropped in a bucket. She takes out Billy Budd and reads the dedication. To Jack Chase, Englishman, wherever that great places Billy back in the tin. She takes out poems dedicated to her and reads Red Clover. How often would I present you with these roses of the meek, and how I yearly remind you of my finding a 4-leaf specimen on the 4th day of a certain bridal month, and my widow weeps. To know all is to forgive all, she whispers. Farewell, Elizabeth Knapshaw. Your landlocked heart never sailed with mine, but when you became my mother, I truly loved you. I'll not haunt you. Like Rabelais, I go to seek a great perhaps. Whitman called this island Mannahatta. Mannahatta, where her streets lead you down to wharves, to join other men standing where their fathers once stood. They line up like sentinels, these pale creatures, tied to counters, chained to desks, all of them gazing into the blue. Father was an importer, had crossed the ocean many times. He told me of monstrous waves mountain high, of ship masts bending like twigs in a storm, of Liverpool and London. We had furniture made in Europe, paintings too. One was of a whale, full of harpoons, and 3 boats chasing after it as fast as the men can row. Whaling is but a shadow now, the romance of the sea long departed. But men still come here to dream, and thus these wharves shall always be full. New York sheds many skins, but the customs house remains. That and the rats who rule the wharves. 20 years I inspected cargo for $4 a day. Oh, those corrupt times when greased palms and winking eyes decreed what entered New York Harbor. I was true and kept my post when each political change flushed out those Augean stables. I was number 75. No one knew their fathers had dreamt of my fay-away on her tropical isle. We returned here to Albany after Father went bankrupt in '37. All are buried here now save Kate, who survives us, and Tom, who sleeps down in Snug Harbor. Father was a Boston Melville of Scottish descent. I thought him the most perfect of creatures. When he died, I sought him in others. Twice I found, but lost him again. Father's death set me on my path at 12. Schooling ended, genteel poverty begun. Think not of the bitterness of old age. A boy can feel all that and more when mildew blights his soul, and the very air of paradise can never cause him to bloom. Mama added an E to deflect our shame. In the valley of the Typee, she'd be on her haunches, kneading poi-poi well into old age. But Mama was a lady and did not lift a finger. Instead, we lived on her family's charity till I could bear it no more and ran off to sea. Mama raised her children as Calvinists. How cruel to tell a child he's damned from birth and his only salvation is to embrace the Christ. But before I could, I questioned his father, who had turned his back on me. Why? I flung again and again to the heavens, each why a harpoon in God's back. Emerson declared evil as the mumps and measles of the world, the phase to be outgrown. Hawthorne saw evil for what it was and believed in nothing. I fell in between. I wanted to believe, but my soul could never harbor with a God said to be all merciful, but proved time and again he was not. In Liverpool, I passed a cellar where a mother lay with children at her breast. Living bones barely alive. The street hag said she'd made her bed. The policeman said this be none of my business. I stole bread. But those creatures were well beyond food. When next I passed, they were dead, rotting, their bread uneaten. I witnessed 4 men being flogged aboard the United States. Their crime of drunken brawl ashore. One was a boy, a mere boy named Peter, and he sobbed for mercy. The captain nodded and the cat was swung, and Peter screamed, "My God, my God!" But God did not listen. 11 more strokes scarred that boy for life. I had to deny knowledge to make room for faith, says Kant. Barnstable, my elder, was made in our father's image. He too was beautiful, witty, educated. Mama preferred him over her second son, who was so like her, sturdy, earthbound, the Dutch side, her side of the family. Had Mama smiled on me as she did on Gansevoort, she would have known my need for love was more than matched by the love I had to give. But she gave me sweet Helen, devoted Augusta, lively Kate, saintly Priscilla. I will bless her for that. Alan, my junior, was true head of the family. Oh, I was fond of him, but not of his stuffy, legal world. I stewarded in Bartleby. Mama thought highly of Alan and proved it by dying 2 months after he did. Now she sleeps, her favorites at her side. Sail on, Herman Melville, sail on. My gallant Tom, gone in your prime, who could have known your noble heart was flawed? You worshipped me, your father, brother, and sailed in my footsteps, working up to captain. Mama was proud, but oh, was I prouder. We had our image taken together. We were truly brothers with our matching beards, and when you died, old sailors lined up in farewell to their governor. Sleep snug in Snug Harbor, my gallant Tom. Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, Concord, Massachusetts. I once wrote to him, the hawthorn is a sweet flower, may it grow in every hedge. But no hawthorn grows on this piece of earth. His wife died in London. An ocean lies between them. Perhaps he waited till they could sail together. Whereas this old spermaceti has left his harem to swim alone. I look back, for the sun is rising. One last time, one last time, one last time. Bah, she blows, and the men of the accouchement lower away. Picture yourself for the first time in an open boat so slight, 3 men can walk off with it some 15 miles from your ship and 100 times as far from the nearest land, giving chase to one of those monsters. Pull! Pull, ye bastards, the boat header cries, and you tug with might and main at the oars. Pull, I say, break your lazy backs. The whale's soon ahead of you. Listen to the roar of the waters in his wake, matched by the pounding of your heart. Turn around and snatch a look at him. There he goes, surging through the brine, the ripples about his head like the bow of a ship. Stand up and give it to him. The harpooner drops his oar. He snatches his iron. It flies. Then everything's sight and sound as the whale flails about and plunges madly ahead, taking you on a Nantucket sleigh ride. But this is nothing. You've just harpooned the beast. Now you must kill him. And when at last he turns to fight, he will fight to the death. He staves one boat with the sweep of his flukes. He crunches another to bit, men and all. The third boat pierces his mighty heart, and he spouts red. And when he rolls over, the battle's done. You tie the whale to your boat and row slowly, painfully back to the ship, followed by 1,000 fins. The brown shark, the blue, the great white, the tiger, all are coming uninvited to the feast. The whale is chained to the ship. Its blubber is peeled round and round like an orange. The sharks too sink in, roll onto their backs and scoop out chunks the size of your head. Monkey rope men stand on the whale and spear as many sharks as they can. And when the whale has been stripped of its blubber, its headless trunk, bleached white by the sun, is released, and the sharks bear away, joined by screeching birds, swooping down for their share. And that great mass of death floats on until all are lost in infinity. And the gore and the stink and the smoke when the blubber is rendered down, and the barrels of oil in the hold, where the late whale glides on as before, though he'll not rise again. And you wait for the next. She blows. Stranded in Hawaii, I sign aboard the United States, sailing for home. I'm assigned to Jack Chase, captain of the foretop. Jack is a Briton, tall and well-knit, with a clear open eye, a fine broad brow, and nut brown beard. No man ever had a better heart or bolder. He's loved by the crew, admired by the officers. Even the captain speaks of him with respect. He knows the verses of Byron, the romances of Scott. He speaks of Don Juan, of Rob Roy, of Macbeth and Ulysses. I think him the most perfect of creatures. When we reach Boston, I kiss that noble hand in farewell. Wherever you may be, Jack, take my best love with you, and may God bless you wherever you are. I come home from the sea, bearded and burnt. A whale ship, my Harvard, my Yale. Dance aboard prig that he is, keeps me from mama till I'm shaved and presentable again. But oh, my different inside, I'm the man who lived with cannibals, how I round my family's eyes with tales from the valley of the Typees. My brother Tom is enchanted and begs me to write them down. I will, I shall. 6 months at sea, yes, dear reader, as I live, 6 months out of sight of land, cruising after the sperm whale, under the scorching sun of the line, tossed about on the billows of the wide rolling Pacific, the sky above, the sea around, and nothing else. It's a cruel life, the sea. You feel a second flood has come, and you ride an ark of men and rats upon it. Think no more of home. These outcast bastards and illiterates are your family now, and the merciless sun makes the pitch bubble and ooze from the deck, and cape winds freeze you down to your marrow, and the maggots multiply, and the food and the roaches swarm everywhere else, and below decks becomes a stinking Sodom, where I search for a friend but find none. And yet, there are moments when each dawn comes out of Genesis, and that there be light upon these waters, or when you pick out bright Centaurus, never to be seen in northern skies, when flying fish leap up into the air, then fall back like a shower of silver, or being up in the mast with the ship but a plank below, one with the gulls, the clouds, the very sun, most of all the ocean with her shades and shadows, lost dreams and lost men, all wrapped in vast unending silence. And for the first time, I saw the hand, if not the face of God. Oh, this wheel of fortune, which drags us down in order to lift us up. Harper's rejects Taipei, but a Dr. Nichols has read my manuscript, convinces my brother Tom it might get published in England. Tom has been appointed the post of American Secretary, and he takes Taipei off to London with him. He writes to me, a John Murray shall publish my book. I blinked stupidly in utter amazement at his letter, and Irving, father of Rip, has read the proofs and recommends it to Riley and Putnam. Thus Taipei shall be published both here and abroad. Chief Justice Lemuel Shaw was father's dearest friend. He can be fierce on the bench, but has a tender heart in private. When father died, Judge Shaw became our benefactor. I shall dedicate Taipei to him. Like Byron, I wake up to find myself famous. Taipei is the talk of London, followed by the American edition. Mama is of two minds. The scandal of my jumping ship to live with cannibals versus the royalties which start to arrive. She leans towards the latter. I write to my brother Ganser, but receive no reply. He has died, insane, in London, truly his father's son. I come down to New York for his remains, and I meet Everett Dye King of Wiley and Putnam, a publisher's son. Books were his mother's milk. Die kink, diving duck. I love all men who dive. Everett takes me under his arm. He declares I must join the revolution for an American literature free from English copyright. Young America, his battle cry. I start writing a sequel instead. But with celebrity come doubters. This Taipei is but mere fancy. Its author has dreamed his own Robinson Crusoe. But my chummy Green turns up to declare it's all true, for he was Toby, who had also jumped ship. But the doubters are still not satisfied. This sailor writes more like a gentleman than anything else. True, I am a gentleman's son. But at sea I showed as brown a chest and as hard a hand as any tar yet could tell my tale with clarity and not a little style. Taipei is sung on both sides of the Atlantic, which is what matters most. And you owe it all to your brother, says Mama. I am not, never was, nor ever shall be her precious Gansevoort. But when will she realize her precious Gansevoort was never me? Everett leaves Wiley and Putnam to start a new weekly, the Literary World. The Wiley move indeed. He coaxes. He pleads with me for Omu's first chapters, and I politely decline. Mother England is about to birth it. But young America, he says. Omu quickly goes into a second or third edition, but brings the missionaries down on my head. I wrote what I saw in Tahiti, how the white man did more damage than good to those he calls heathens. He's brought disease and rats and mosquitoes with his God. He's covered their bodies and made them ashamed. He's taken their glands and made them no better than slaves. I was the snake in the valley of the Taipes. I would have corrupted by teaching its people to read and write, to think and quarrel and doubt. Oh, but I escaped before infecting them. May Cory this very moment be napping neath the palm tree, safe from us white devils. Whenever in Boston I call on Judge Shaw and his library, But I soon come to call on his daughter, Elizabeth. She knows why suitors call on the judge's only daughter, but she's chosen to wait rather than to rush into marriage. We talk of this and that. Did you know Helen shook the hand of Mr. Dickens, vowed never to wash hers again? No, I did not know that. And Mr. Melville, have you witnessed the practice by which the Typees are said to be famous? No, but I did manage to see some bones. Oh, I see. Does she? The Daily Tribune reports, Mr. Herman Typee Melville has been united in lawful wedlock to a young lady in Boston. The fair forsaken Fayaway will doubtless be suing for breach of promise. The fair forsaken Fayaway will have forgotten her Tomo by now, as she needs Poe for her two husbands. Oh God, I feel I'm below decks again, sharing this box with Lizzie, Alan, Sophia, Mama, Helen, Gus, Kate, Priscilla. Alan goes to his downtown office. Tom has gone to sea. I go upstairs to earn my living. Lizzie blends so with my sister, she starts to feel neglected. I give her Moby to transcribe, but she can't keep up. I call him Gus, who is swift to pen. And Lizzie goes on dusting under Mama's baleful eyes. We dress for lunch, we dress for dinner, we dress to make calls, we dress to receive. The land begins to scorch my feet. I escape to Everton, borrow Brown, Count, Rabelais, Cervantes, Goethe, Dante, and my brain begins to unfold with Mardi. Yilla was a maiden from Arulia, the island of delights. To this isle, by some mystical power, she had been spirited from Amma, the land of her nativity, and hardly had the waters of Arulia washed white her olive skin and tinged her hair with gold, when she was snared in the tendrils of a vine, transformed into one of its blossoms, her soul folded up into its petals. Marty's reception baffles me. Typee was considered mere fiction. When I chose to fictionalize with Mardi, I'm labeled no writer at all. And that praises it in this world, but the damage is done. The royalty shall trickle, not flow from Mardi. However, Evan urges me to continue writing. There are arrows still, he says, in your quiver. I abandon Brown, that cracked archangel, and I begin a nursery tale about a fatherless lad, bound for Liverpool. His sole companion, his father's out-of-date travel guide. So vivid now was the impression of his having been here, that I felt like running on and overtaking him at the head of Castle Street at the town hall adjoining. But I soon checked myself when realizing he'd gone whither no sun's search could find him on this earth. And I had much ado to keep from tears. Where? My son? I know not how much he weighs, but it takes 3 nurses to dress him, and he's as lusty as a Caesar. I shall call him Barbarossa, or Ferdinand, or Bonaparte. Malcolm, says Gus. Malcolm it is. His first words were, "Where's that old man?" "I'm here, Mackie. I'll always be here." Dolt and ass that I am. But until a few months ago, I had not really read the Divine William. He's full of sermons on the mount, but gentle. Aye, gentle as Jesus. And through the mouths of his Hamlet and Lear, he speaks what we know to be true, though it be madness to even think of it. There's nothing, either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Oh, this real fortune which lifts us up in order to bring us down. Again, I'm forced to write about the sea. Taipi and Umu were my wanderings, Redburn my merchant vessel, White Jacket my man of war. That leaves the catching and killing of whales. Not fit company for ladies to read in their beds. My heart's not in it. Well, blubber is blubber. You can get oil out of it, but the poetry will run as hard as sap in a frozen maple. Oh, New York is positively an oven in summer. We join Aunt Mary in Pittsfield. Here, she says, giving me a book, Mosses from an Old Manse. A patch of moss is pasted inside. From Salem, she says. An outing has been planned up Monument Mountain. Evan has been coaxed from Manhattan. Dr. Holmes is here summering. From Boston comes the plumper half of Ticknor and Fields. The tall, balding Apollo approaches, and a blue wave rolls over me, for this be Nathaniel Hawthorne, man of the Mosters. I passed his farmhouse many times, but never knew he lived there. Talking to him is like wooing a shy maiden, but the divine magnet is upon him, and my metal responds. He's been called a pleasant writer, lest I stayed away from his work, but when I read his Mosses, I knew him. Beneath his humor, his sunshine, lies a blackness, the same blackness from which Shakespeare spun his tales. But the divine William wrote with the muzzle on his soul. His own Elizabethans put it there. He could only speak his truth through his madmen. But no madmen for Hawthorne, no. He writes with a freedom, a clarity that comes only from knowing his heart, totally unfettered. I know the course, the path his heart has taken. No man can soar to such heights without plunging first to the bottom. Any fish can swim near the surface, but it takes a great whale to go down 5 miles or more, and if he can't find the bottom, no amount of lead in the world can fashion the plummet that will. I think him the most perfect of creatures, to he who built this farmhouse. Could you have known after clearing this land, this vista would be yours? Behold Greylock, with all his hills about him, like Charlemagne among his peers. But there's no piazza, and one must be had. The house is wide, my fortune narrow. On which side should I build? To the east, the hills. Come to center the dawns, drape those high lands with red barred plaids and tartans. But to the north is Charlemagne. To the south, apple trees. The Maytime orchards all in white. Their leaves and apples come October. But to the north is Charlemagne. To the west, a rising pasture leading up to the maples. How the greens streak through the browns and grays when spring awakens. But to the north is Charlemagne. I turn over the soil and I recover arrowheads from the vanished tribe. I christen this my home. Arrowhead. To the north is Charlemagne. miles away is Hawthorne. And the sun is at its zenith. I must start anew. I'll keep my bumpkin, but call him Ishmael. Ishmael, born to wander. Bulkington stood full 6 feet in height, with noble shoulders and a chest like a copper dam. Adjure Bulkington, you'll not be the hero after all, adjure for now. My Whalum must become a democracy, young America. The Acushnet had only white men, but come aboard the Pequod, you men of red and yellow, brown and black. And God created great whales. The mighty whales would swim in a sea of water and have a sea of oil swimming in them. Moby Dick was an old bull whale of massive size and strength. From age a freak of nature, he was white as wool. On Tower Hill in London, a crippled beggar holds a painted board showing how he lost his leg. There are 3 boats and 3 whales, and his boat is being crunched by one of the whales. In the lower jaw are 42 teeth of formidable size but conical in shape. Can you draw out Leviathan with a fish hook? Can you fill his skin with harpoons? And his head with fishing spears? I will, I shall. What tune is it ye pull to men? A dead whale or a stove boat? And Ahab, son of Omri, did evil in the face of the Lord above all that came before him. Autumn in the Berkshires, I find myself jay-creasizing in the woods. The air so ripe and ruddy, 'tis must be harvest time with the angels. How the reds of the maples contrast with the green of the pine, yet harmonize. Whenever I find myself growing grim about the mouth, whenever it is a damp, drizzly November in my soul, then I count it high time to get to sea as soon as I can. No sooner is ground broken than the neighbors laugh. A piazza facing north. True, the winter winds will pummel me, but I'll walk my piazza as if on deck sailing round Cape Horn. And when August comes and I'm in the shade, I'll pity those in the sun. But man, proud man, his glassy essence like an angry ape, plays such fantastic tricks on high heaven as make the angels weep. Talk not to me of blasphemy, man. I'd strike the sun if it insulted me. How's Lucy feeling now? The ground is covered smooth in snow. In the mornings I look out my window as I would out of the porthole of a ship in the Atlantic. My room seems a ship's cabin. At nights when I awake and I hear the wind shrieking, I almost fancy there's too much sail on the house. I'd better get on the roof and rig in the chimney. The whale struck the Essex to windward directly under the cathead and stove in her bows. He passed on to the ship again, went off to leeward, and we saw no more of him. I need 50 fast-riding youths, for Gus now runs the household. Helen can't keep up with me. Lizzie's no housekeeper, and Mama lets her know it. Nor is she much of a wife, always off to Boston to visit her father. Maids are May when they are maids. Aye, but the sky changes when they are wives. Aye, sweet William, that they do. The Acushnet was wrecked off St. Lawrence in August. The crew rescued, the ship a total loss. 1,300 barrels in her hold, less than 300 saved, less than 300. That side blow through Mrs. Hawthorne will not do. I am not to be charmed of my promised pleasure by any of that lady's Syrianisms. You, sir, I hold accountable. The visit, in all its original integrity, must be made. Come, no nonsense. If you don't, I will send constables after you. Hawthorne presents me with his gables. It surpasses his other work. But something is lacking in the man himself. Speak, thou vast and venerable head. Of all divers thou hast dived the deepest. That head upon which the upper sun now gleams has moved amid this world's foundations, where unrecorded names and navies rust and untold hopes and anchors rot, where in her murderous hold the earth is ballasted with bones of millions of the drowned. Oh, head, Thou hast seen enough to split the planets and make an infidel of Abraham, and not one syllable is thine. I come down to New York to slave over the book while the first chapters are being pushed through the press. It's the only way I can finish now. Now the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah. Oh, I hear flattering things about the Gable. A second edition is announced. His portrait by Thompson is on display. He is on the ascendant. What reputation I have as horrible. To go down to posterity as the man who lived with cannibals. What have I done? Had I written my whaling book as planned, I'd be finished now. Instead, this. I come home to recline on the grass. And finish the book reclining upon it. If ever, my dear Hawthorne, in the eternal times that are to come, you and I shall sit down together in some shady little corner of paradise. And if we shall by any means be able to smuggle a basket of champagne there, and strike and click our glasses and heads together, to both shall musically ring in concert, then, oh, my dear fellow mortal, how shall we pleasantly discourse upon all things manifold, which now so distress us, and all the world shall be reminiscence, yea, its final dissolution and antiquity. Yes, let us look forward to such things. Stand close to me, Starbuck. Let me look into a human eye. It is better than to gaze into sea or sky, better than to gaze upon God. One eye shut, one eye blinking. Roll on, thou dark and deep blue ocean. 10,000 blubber hunters sweep over thee in vain. Lightning flashes through my skull. Mine eyeballs ache. My whole beaten brain seems as beheaded and rolling on some sunny ground. The throat is capacious enough to give passage to the body of a man. And I throw fear down its throat and leap in after him. Blow, winds, and crack your cheeks. Rage, blow, you cataracts and hurricanos. Spout till you have drenched our steeples. Drown the cocks, you sulphurous and thought-executing fires. Vaunt couriers to oak-cleaving thunderbolts. Singe my white head, and thou all shaking thunder. Strike flat the thick rotundity of the world. Toward thee I roll, thou all destroying but unconquering whale. To the last I grapple with thee. From hell's heart I stab at thee. For hate's sake I spit my last breath at thee. Sink all coffins and all hearses to one common pool. And since neither can be mine, let me tow to pieces while still chasing thee. Thou damned whale. Thus, I give up the spear. And I alone only am escaped to tell thee. I've written a wicked book. It feels spotless as the lamb. I'm 31 years old. In token of my admiration for his genius, this book is inscribed to Nathaniel Hawthorne. Hawthorne has moved back to Concord away from my tentacles. He writes to me about the whale. He admires portions, but cares not a penny for the book as a whole. His wife understands what I've written, but she also understands him. I promise her, I assure her, My next book shall be a royal bowl of milk, but damning reviews of the whale curdle. This was to be my masterpiece, not my greatest failure. Now I'll never pay the judge back for Arrowhead. Pierre becomes my revenge, starting with my father. There were rumors after his death, 2 women visiting Uncle Thomas, the younger my half-sister, born out of wedlock. I never met her yet, she still haunts me. My uncle paid them off, and my father, this too mortal flesh which melted, thawed, resolved itself into a dew, and left us penniless. If the whale was my Lear, Pierre shall be my Hamlet. I plunge even deeper than before, burrowing down to the ocean floor, down to the fiery kingdom. My study is like ice, my fingers are blue. One eye shut, I blink with the other. One candle alone burns at my side. One, for the blood of men is mixed in with the sperm. When I sleep, I dream of black oceans. The judge's daughter has Holmes pay a call. I know why the little doctor has been summoned. Am I going mad? Like my father and my brother? Oh, but Herman be a clever one. He swims up and up and up and up to the surface to smile and be a villain. We talk of books, Holmes and I. Holmes declares I'm not mad, merely tired. Holmes is right and wrong. The shops are few, but have their say. French and German decadence, disgusting, repulsive, ever downright hates Pierre, rupturing our friendship. Young America indeed. I write stories so my family can butter their bread. I turn my inner disgust out with the confidence man, where the devil walks among the fools of the earth. I'm so repulsed by my vision. I send it to Harper's unfinished, it fails. Everything I write fails now. The judge suggests I go abroad for my health. In other words, for everyone else's sanity. That good old man will pay for my trip, though it puts me further in his debt. I'll go to the Holy Land to seek him, but stop first in Liverpool to find the other him. Hawthorne and I sit among the dunes, our cigars an excuse for silence. I talk about God. Sooner or later, I will talk about God. I see pity in Hawthorne's eyes. He too must think me mad. I understand him now. He wants to be left alone. Not just by me, but by everybody. He lives at the bottom of the deepest, blackest well, content with his circle of blue above him. Had he not left Berkshire, I would have drowned in that well. But I had to see him one last time. I'll go to the Holy Land. My metal turns to no magnet. Here, anywhere. Judea is made of stones. Stones are all about you. Stony mountains, stony plains, stony fields, stony walls, stony hearts, stony eyes. Jerusalem has the cold gray eye of a cold old man. The holy sepulchre reeks of a charnel house. Turkish policemen smoke outside. I squeeze past the stone where the angel sat into the blazing tomb. I look down upon a glittering slab, and then I file out disappointed past the smoking Turks. I go away unanswered, nor do I bother to question, for I know now the voice of God is silence, 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 silence. And get into writing poetry, I see Mama's love poems don't sell. My back begins to bother me, rheumatism. Mackie talks back to his mother. Bessie suffers from allergies. Fanny shuns me. Why couldn't I have beautiful, happy children? War is whispered or shouted in the streets. Lincoln is elected, South Carolina secedes, with more to follow. Oh, the wild bazaars, war is declared. Union flags flutter on Berkshire roofs. Militias drill on the green, and then they march away to cheering crowds. And the young were all elation, hearing Sumter's cannon roar, and they thought how tame the nation in the age that went before. But the elders with foreboding mourn the days forevermore, and recall the forest proverb, the Iroquois old song, grief to every gray beard when young Indians lead the war. The bulletin board becomes the town's focus. People push to read the dispatches. Oh, the cheers for those early victories. But with the snow come casualties. And when winter has turned to spring, people have had enough. They don't want to think of skulls lined up like pine cones, or moldy coats filled with bones. Elms that wave on Malvern Hill in prime of morning day. Recall ye how McClellan's men here stood at bay? Does the young would recall the haggard beards of blood, the sod with thousands meet? Does Malvern wood bethink itself in yews and brood? We elms of Malvern Hill remember everything, but sap the twig will fill. Wag the world how it will, leaves must be green in spring. My brother Alan and I make a trade. Arrowhead for Manhattan. The wife hates Pittsfield winters. I miss Manhattan's energy. What have I to do with Berkshire of Hawthorne? Been way too long I didn't recognize her. My Manhattan was still Dutch at heart, concentrated down at the tip. The streets were interlaced fingers with names. Now she pushes north with numbers. I was born on Pearl. I shall dwell on East 26th. Evan and the bookshops remain, but the rest has become war's workshop. Manhattan grunts out rifles. Brooklyn hammers out ships. Uniformed men crowd the streets. Storefronts become recruiting centers. Cannons clog the sidewalks. The streets leading down to the wharves end in charred remains from the draft riots. The oceans of the world have stopped. Hawthorne has died in his sleep on a trip with his friend Pierce. I should have kept his letters, they might comfort me now. But I burned them back in Arrowhead. I taped on a copy of his Mosses, and I read a passage from the Celestial Railroad. There was one strange thing that troubled me amid the occupations or amusements of the fair. Nothing was more common than for a person suddenly to vanish like a bubble and be never more seen again of his fellows. And so accustomed were the lads of this that they went on with their business as if nothing had happened. But it was otherwise with me. Nothing can be finer than that. My battle piece is another failure. Nobody wants war poetry now. Lincoln is dead. The flags are taken down, the cannons are wheeled away. The elms of Malvern Hill may remember, but people have had enough. I become number 75 for $4 a day. No! No! No, it was not a suicide. Mackie was cleaning his pistol and it went off. I had locked him out, coming home drunk, night after night after night. He wanted to go to sea. I said, no, the sea's not the answer, it's never the answer. He joined the militia instead, strutting in his uniform, brandishing his pistol, out drinking night after night. The wife sat up for him. He came home one night very drunk. He barricaded himself in his room. I heard a loud noise. I broke down the door and I found him, pistol in hand, bullet in brain. It was not a suicide. Mackie was cleaning his pistol. He was cleaning his pistol. Oh God, he was cleaning his pistol. His first words were, "Where'd that old man?" I don't know, Mackie sailed away long, long ago to the valley of the Typees, the valley of the Typees. My brain is ablaze, writing chloral. I stumble through my own holy land, the same dull land which breathes but blues and melancholy. I'm a whirlpool of ink and whiskey, birthing a monster longer than Milton, longer than Homer, dragging Fanny out of her bed to proof the pages. Earn your keep, girl! I'm a voice in the wilderness, fit company for snakes and scorpions. Mine eyes fixed on a flinty stone which lay there at my feet, but soon thought would wander. Then the stone I caught, clutched it in my hand, till blood oozed from these nails. I was alone. Alone, no, not long alone. A spirit entered me, 'twas he the tempter. He mocked wise strife. Dost hunger for the bread of life? I'll back this faith. True faith could be fed. True faith could turn that stone to bread. That stone thou holdest. Harper's publishes Chlorella at Uncle Peter's expense. The sharks are few but have their say. Queequeg no care what God made him shark. But to God what made him shark must be one damn engine. Go mad. I cannot. I maintain the perilous outpost of the same. I read in the Academy how the poet Buchanan had sought me out. He's found Whitman, this Triton retired from the customs house and from life itself. My appetite is good, though my back is not. I still go for walks, though not as far. I still buy books, I still write or publish privately, and am content to be forgotten. I take down a copy of Evatt's encyclopedia, published ages ago. I'm represented by Redburn. Evatt cared not for the whale. His battle cry, Young America. And the battle has been won. We have a new literature with its own voice, its own culture. But I care not for today's writers. My era wrote about the sea, about the forests of the New World. But after the war, we were no longer new, no longer young. Each generation reads what it wants and writes what it knows. Realism. Today's battle cry, enough, I've had my day. Let the realists have theirs. But who in turn shall replace them? I rent a pew in All Souls Church. Misty Father's faith more compassionate than Mama's. The Reverend Williams encourages me to seek answers, though I may not find them. That the mysteries of God may remain just that, mysteries. I may be a mystery to God myself. This clay that questions yet clings to him. O Over half a lifetime ago, I gave these words to my father Malcolm. The ribs and terrors in the whale arched over me in dismal gloom, while all God's sunlit waves rolled by and left me deepening down to doom. In black distress I called my God, and I could scarce believe him mine. He bowed his ear to my complaint. No more the whale did me confine. My song forever shall record that terrible, that joyful hour. I give the glory to my God. His all the mercy and the power, to which I too can now say, Amen. To Jack Chase, Englishman, wherever that great heart may now be, here on earth or harbored in paradise, you are done, Billy Budd. May you live to be published. Prospero breaks his staff. I lay down my pen. Oh, sleepy. And the oozy weeds about me drift. I was dreaming of an ocean that wore with itself about. I'm a beardless boy again. A ship of glass sails toward me. Father brought it home from Europe. It is kept under glass in our parlor. A well-lit man with a nut-brown beard beckons, but the sun is setting. One last time, we sail past a whale full of harpoons, and 3 boats chasing after it as fast as the men can row. Recite your Byron, says the captain, and I obey. And I have loved the ocean, and my joy of youthful sport was on thy breast to be born, like thy bubbles onward. As we near land, the captain smiles, and he becomes my perfect father, who lifts me up, for I have dwindled down to infancy. And he gives me to my mother, who welcomes me back inside her, where I safely sleep, as whales and walruses rush about. And as I dissolve, there are he's at peace at last. Season, and I would be remiss if I did not recognize my brilliant playwright, Carl Rossi, who wrote this, and he also wrote the one-man whistler show that I do called Butterfly. He's just a brilliant writer, and I just love the end, how he goes back to his mother's womb. It's just so cyclical and so very, very beautiful. And I would say that Carl Rossi knows as much about Melville as any PhD, that's for sure. And I have learned a lot about him, reading and reading and rereading. And I teach him at retirement communities. I don't try to teach Moby Dick, but I teach Billy Budd. And I teach Bartleby. And I teach some of the Piazza tales. So I hadn't done this in a while, and I did it last week at the Lexington Community Center. And after I did it, I realized that I needed to go over some things. But, you know, some of you may or may not know, a lot of scholars think that Melville was bipolar. manic before that term was even, on the medical itinerary landscape. And Carl calls the different parts of the show beads. And so the Moby Dick bead is where he says, I must start anew, I'll keep my bumpkin, but call him Ishmael. That, up until Hawthorne has moved back to Concord, that's the Moby Dick bead. And what he wanted to do was he wanted to show the frenetic energy of this guy's mind and how he was bouncing from one thing to another, to another, to another. And of course, if you read Moby Dick, there's a lot of Shakespeare in there. There's a lot of, Ahab has got some incredible Shakespearean monologues. So, any questions, thoughts, comments? I guess you all want to have coffee and cake, right? Go ahead, sir.
First of all, I think you deserve a rest. You should sit down. That was kind of heroic all by itself. And thank you. In your Melville studies, do you ever get involved with evaluating or thinking hard aloud about Weequahic coffin?
About the coffin? Yeah, I've got some thoughts about that. What are yours?
Well, I think it'll make a great boat name, is what I think. But other than that, I haven't gotten too much further.
Yeah.
I was charmed by it back in the 50s.
I love the beginning of the book where he ends up, with the Spouter Inn, and they don't have enough room, so he ends up sharing the bed with Weequahic. And what's the great line? I'd rather share a bed with a drunken cannibal than a sober Christian. There's a lot of humor in this. There's just such. I will say this. I think that the Gregory Peck movie is okay, but I think the great Moby Dick movie has yet to be made, and the Billy Budd movie is god awful bad. Oh my gosh, it's just so bad. I guess it's easy to be a critic, not so easy to be an artist. But I love, I teach novellas, so I teach Billy Budd, I teach Death and Menace by Thomas Mann, I teach Heart of Darkness, Conrad, I teach Under the Screw, Henry James, and I teach Kafka, The Metamorphosis. So I just, I spent a lot of years in a sales career that really beat me up emotionally. And I'm 71, officially septuagenarian. And for the last 30 years, I've made a pretty decent living teaching literature and performing. And I wake up every day and I pinch myself and I say, oh my God, I have such gratitude, to do this. And 3 years ago, I had major heart surgery. And I thought I was checking out. But not yet, I'm still here. I tell people I'm still on this side of the grass. Yeah. So, well, let's all have a piece of cake and some coffee.
Yeah, wine.
Huh? Wine. Okay.